Lands the Brave Bird. Now looking to pivot, the opponent comes in to a Dragon Breath Giratina. Out comes Lucario. The opponent answers with Cobalion. Chino looking to tank the Sacred Sword. Lucario survives on 1 HP and a Dream. If the opponent's counting, this can't be a Shadow Ball. It's an easy tank or surprise, because bang, there it is. Shout out Oxford U for that one. So let's get into today's video. Today we have got an absolute banger, quite literally. As my good friend Chino, a multi-time legend, is running a very unique variation of Pidgeot Double Steel, usually seen with Registeel. However, Registeel, the big tin can, is nowhere to be seen. We are running a Twin Nukes Lucario with counter, Shadow Ball for coverage, and the surprise nuke of Close Combat. So without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1 we lead Pidgeot into Nidoqueen. The opponent is building up to what could be a Stone Edge. Let's see how big Chino's cojones are. He looks to tank the move, and the opponent only goes for the Poison Fang. Chino over farming and doing what Pidgeot users do best, throwing the Feather Dance as the opponent shields up. We now see a save switch into Cobalion. The opponent builds up to what could be a double debuffed Earth Power. Chino calls the bait, and holy smokes, the opponent goes for the Poison Fang. Mr. Opponent, do you know anything other than bait? And Chino fires off the Sacred Sword. This isn't a great matchup for our Cobalion, as both Stone Edge and Sacred Sword are resisted. The opponent finally sends the Earth Power, but Cobalion holds strong. Chino going to fire off one more Sacred Sword. This isn't going to knock out, but Nidoqueen is left deep in the red. The opponent will need to Earth Power to take us out, as we've already seen Poison Fang probably healed our Cobalion. The opponent does send the Earth Power. Chino just sacrifices his Cobalion to the greater good. Perhaps they don't have an answer for Steel. Chino comes into Lucario, and the opponent comes in to a Walrus. This big fat Walrus doesn't even build up to an Earthquake. It's an easy no shield for Chino. Chino now over farming, firing off the Shadow Ball on CMP. Lucario with a super high attack stat doesn't lose many charge move priority events, and down goes Walrus. We got 2 shield Lucario with residual energy, and Pidgeot with energy in the back. The opponent has Obstagoon, and this is looking like game over. Chino going straight for the Close Combat. The opponent shields it up, and we pivot out into our Pidgeot to reset our debuff. We've got 2 shields. We're going to shield up the Night Slash. The opponent now looks to make a catch. Chino farms up to maximum energy. Feather Dance going to take care of Nidoqueen. We're 1 wing attack away from the Brave Bird, and Obstagoon is about to get vanquished back to its Pokeball. GG's, and thanks for playing. Beautiful energy management there in the end game. Moving on to the next one, we see Pidgeot into Dragonite. Dragonite got a fairly decent-ish matchup against all 3 Pokemon. Dragon Breath going to tear through our Pidgeot, and neither our back 2 Pokemon really fancy tanking a superpower to the face. Chino going straight for the Brave Bird. The opponent lets it go. They get one shot. We pivot into Lucario. The opponent temporarily brought in Walrein, and now they've got Venusaur in the back. Lucario looking absolutely prime. We do tank all moves from Venusaur. They are resisted. However, holy smokes, Lucario didn't tank that Frenzy Plant particularly well. Chino returns fire with the Shadow Ball. Venusaur now left on 1 HP and a Dream. This is an easy no shield for Chino, as a 2 shield Cobalion is going to delete that big fat Walrus. Chino waits out his time. He now brings in the Pidgeot. When Walrein does return, they are going to need to throw an Icicle Sphere, or they're going to be permanently debuffed. Chino choosing to shield up the Icicle Sphere, and we're going to permanently debuff this Walrus anyway. As if the matchup wasn't looking bad for the opponent, Chino being super annoying, firing off the Feather Dance. Looks like the opponent looking to farm down. Chino finally pivots into Cobalion, and this Earthquake, if they throw it, is 2-stage debuff. Chino shields up the Icicle Sphere. However, I don't think that's going to save the opponent. The opponent's going to be very sad at this pitiful damage from a non-stab Earthquake. Cobalion tanks it really easily. It looks like Chino committing to the fast move beatdown, and that is going to be all she wrote. Moving on to the next one. Dreadful lead Pidgeot into the Steel Penguin in Polo, and we say switch into Lucario, and the opponent answers with Swampert. Chino going straight for the Close Combat. It lands for huge damage, and just like that, Lucario gives Chino the opportunity to flip switch, and you can bet your bottom dollar that's absolutely what he's going to do. Lucario gets the farm down. Empoleon unlikely to return, because they're also going to have to beat a Close Combat to the face. The opponent sends out Gyarados. The opponent's already been nuked once. Surely they don't allow the Shadow Ball to go through. The opponent finally learns the tough lesson that Lucario is not baiting. Gyarados has a lot of residual energy, so Pidgeot going to be used as a damage sponge. Chino actually shields, and holy smokes, the opponent also not baiting. They're running Outrage. I think almost every Gyarados I've seen in the Ultra League is running Crunch and Aqua Tail. However, this Spice Lord tried to nuke us with an Outrage and Chino was having none of it. The opponent pivots out into the Penguin and Cobalion now about to feast. It takes just 3 double kicks for each Sacred Sword and Chino's got the back-to-back locked and loaded. The opponent realises they're going to get outpaced. They let the Penguin go down. Gyarados does return and this Sacred Sword is pretty much going to be enough to knock out the opponent. Calls the bait, however that is not saving them. The opponent stops attacking, realising it's game over and Chino picks up another dub. Very nicely done. Moving on to the next one. We see the battle of the normal types. It's Greedent versus Pidgeot. As Greedent is running Bullet Seed, it's pretty favourable for Pidgeot. If the opponent was running Tackle, it would be favourable for the Greedent. The opponent is super spammy, just like Cobalion. It only takes 3 Bullet Seeds for each Body Slam. Chino, recognising this bulky squirrel, unlikely to shield, so he full sends the Brave Bird. It lands and we see the pivot into Cobalion. The opponent answers with Poliwrath. Poliwrath, pretty good response for Cobalion, especially as Shadow's their Dynamic Punch will be returning us to our Pokeball. However, the opponent gets greedy, over farming, allowing Cobalion to get off the second Sacred Sword, and that leaves Poliwrath deep in the red. This loaded Poliwrath finally going to throw a charge with, and Chino's just going to allow his Cobalion to go down. We can send out Pidgeot, look to wing attack down, and hope Lucario's primed to sweep. The opponent has enough for an Ice Punch or Dynamic Punch. Chino going to respect it. The opponent goes for the Ice Punch. We now wing attack farm all the way down. Back out comes Greedent, and we're not baiting. We're sending the second Brave Bird. The opponent lets it go, relying on 2 Shield Drapion to close. The opponent, realising they can't get rid of this Lucario, save 2 shields for next season and concede the match. Moving on to the next one. We see some annoying bird on bird action. The battle of the debuffers. Chino looks to catch what I imagine will be a Feather Dance on Cobalion, and of course the opponent goes for the Feather Dance. They now send out Runerigas, and this is pretty dreadful. Absolutely everything from our Cobalion is resisted. Chino fires off the Stone Edge with the debuff that did all of about 10 HP worth of damage, and Chino sitting in a tricky spot. However, when our Pidgeot does return, we do fully wall this Pokemon in return, so I imagine it isn't the worst spot to be in, despite us getting pretty beat down in the mid game. Chino gonna fire off the Sacred Sword, and did that actually do any damage? It didn't really look like it. Despite us walling all of this Runeriga's energy, they're far too healthy for an aggressive wing attack farm down, so Chino is going to need to throw a charge move. The opponent goes for the Sand Tomb, and that probably did even less damage than our resisted, debuffed or double debuff Sacred Sword did. Chino fires off the Feather Dance. Runeriga's going to be hanging around, firing off Sand Tomb after Sand Tomb. Pidgeot flapping away, going to fire off Feather Dance number 2. This still won't knock out. Chino goes for the undercharge, looking to maximise our energy gain. I imagine the opponent is going to send the double resisted Shadow Ball at some stage. Well, what do I know? They go for yet another Sand Tomb. Chino now going to commit to the wing attack farm down. Is this now the Shadow Ball? No, another Sand Tomb. If you ever wondered why I use Shadow Pokemon, it's because matchups like this actually give me anxiety. The opponent's final Pokemon is Registeel. Chino has 2 Protect Shields to hide behind. We're going to shield up the Focus Blast. To my surprise, the opponent didn't go for the debuff. Back out comes Pidgeot, but the question is, does the opponent respect the close combat? They do not. They get one shot. Back out comes Registeel, and the opponent can save 2 shields for next season. Another very nice endgame, despite probably the most boring mid-game I've ever seen in my life. Moving on to the next one, we see another Pidgeot mirror. This time the opponent safe switches into Cobalion. Chino gonna full send the Brave Bird. The opponent probably gonna call the bait and hashtag we're not baiting. As we have lowered our defense, we're probably gonna need to shield. However, Chino calls the bait. What huge cojones on this man, and we now see the pivot into our own Cobalion, looking for the double kick farm down. The opponent fires off the Sacred Sword. That does pretty big damage. Back out comes Pidgeot, and Pidgeot isn't gonna appreciate Cobalion's rock type coverage. The opponent shields the Stone Edge. They overfarm heavily. If they go for a Feather Dance, we're going to reach Stone Edge number 2, and Pidgeot does Feather Dance. Mr. Opponent then makes a savage catch or at least they would think so, catching the Stone Edge on Registeel, but Registeel is going to be very sad when we pivot into Lucario. Lucario now looking to go to work. Chino still has 2 Protect Shields, 2 hide behinds, so this is the easiest shield of his GBL career. Counter tearing apart this tin can. There's no point in debuffing our own defense with the close combat, so we full YOLO the Shadow Ball. Registeel survives on 1 HP and a Dream. However, Chino can safely shield this up, commit to the counter farm down. Pidgeot does return, however they're unlikely to respect the close combat. They're probably going to save that shield for a potential Brave Bird, and just like that, this game is now absolutely over. Chino lands another close combat. These nukes are going off left, right and centre. The opponent goes for the Feather Dance. Lucario shrugs it off and we take another impressive dub. Let's go. Moving on to the next one. Battle of the Flyers. Pidgeot into Charizard. Looks like Chino has hit the Brave Bird on a CMP tie to a potential Blast Burn. The opponent full sends the Blast Burn and Chino says, I see you, trainer. We're going to return the Brave Bird. The opponent lets it go. Holy crap, most Pidgeot users love to bait, however Chino doesn't bait. We save switch into Lucario. The opponent sends out Giratina, pivot into Cobalion. They fire off the Sacred Sword. This can only be a power-up punch, or at least you would think. Close combat goes unshielded. Holy crap, Chino nuking the opponent all over the shop. The opponent in absolute shambles. They've got a 2-shielded Giratina, however Pidgeot is going to permanently double debuff this opponent with the Feather Dance. The opponent calls the bait. They're still hanging on to 2 shields. Chino not going to shield up the Pidgeot. The opponent just fires off a Dragon Claw. Can we get to 1 more Feather Dance? Yes, we can. The opponent's now going to be maximum debuff. Please, Mr. Opponent. Please top left. They don't top left. We send out the Cobalion and the opponent finally says, fuck that. And they concede. Moving on to the next one. Nightmare lead. Their big fat walrus has got our Pidgeot scarpering for the hills. We safe switch into Lucario and the opponent answers with Venusaur. Chino fires off the Shadow Ball and Venusaur does shield this up. The counters are resisted. We do resist everything from Venusaur, however you can see Lucario's lack of bulk. Venusaur outpaces us to 1 more charge move. Chino just going to allow Lucario to go down. I imagine we're going to come in with Pidgeot and look for a very, very aggressive farm down. Well, maybe not a farm down. Not everyone is as aggressive as me. Let's see what Chino does. Sludge Bomb going to do around 45% of our HP. This Venusaur is far too healthy, so the wing attack farm down looks super aggressive. However, it looks like Chino is going to go for it. Sludge Bomb is going to nearly knock out, so Chino is going to commit a shield. However, we're at 100 energy when Walrein does return. We can look to do big damage with the Brave Bird. Walrein unlikely to shield, so Brave Bird gets him into the yellow. We see the pivot into Cobalion. It's Ampharos in the back. We see 2 super spammy Pokemon battling out. Chino fires off the Sacred Sword. The opponent shields it up. Chino then fires 1 double kick and the next Sacred Sword. Great fast move timing. That's 3 turns versus 4 turns. The opponent farms up to what could be a Zap Cannon and Chino is going to respect it. The opponent just goes for a Thunder Punch. They then fire off a charge move. Again, this can only be a Thunder Punch. And now Cobalion looks primed to sweep. Chino farms up to the back-to-back. The first Sacred Sword, going to be Night Night, Sleep Tight Ampharos when Walrein does return. The second Sacred Sword about to return the big fat walrus to its Pokeball. GG's, very nicely done. Moving on to the next one, we see Pidgeot into Obstagoon. Due to Obstagoon's dark normal type, and they're going to take double super effective from fighters. So we've got 2 better responses in the back. We're looking to stay in originally. Chino tanks the Night Slash, he then over farms, and then he's going to YOLO the Brave Bird. His Obstagoon going to respect the damage. Brave Bird draws a shield. We see the pivot into Cobalion. The opponent stays in and get caught out by just how spammy Cobalion. We make the Sacred Sword. The opponent commits another shield. Holy smokes, they're all shields down and they safe switch into Swampert. Swampert can hit us for huge super effective damage with an Earthquake. However, we've got 2 Protect Shields to hide behind. If I was Chino, I'd absolutely be looking to call the bait. The opponent just fires off a Hydro Cannon. We had the Sacred Sword locked and loaded. We don't throw it though, so Cobalion is going to get taken out with the Hydro Cannon. It looks like we're saving 2 shields for Lucario. We send back out Pidgeot. We go straight for the Brave Bird. Swampert has no Protect Shields, too high behind Brave Bird. Going to be taking care of the Swampert. We're seeing the pivot into Lucario. The opponent's got Dragonite in the back, and with 2 shields, Lucario looking prime to sweep. This can only be a Dragon Claw, but Chino looking to keep health. The opponent stops attacking, looking to catch. I don't think they caught as I didn't see Obstagoon come back in, so Shadow Ball takes care of Dragonite. Nice attempt from the opponent, but they didn't quite pull the play off correctly. Let's see if the opponent has Cross Chop. Yes, they do. Can Lucario tank a Cross Chop? This is going to be close. Lucario survives on 1 HP and a Dream. We don't make the close combat. Pidgeot now gonna have to survive a move. Pidgeot, not the bulkiest. This is going to be super close. Can we survive the Night Slash? Yes, just about, but unfortunately we get a tie. The win streak finally comes to an end. Moving on to the next one. Hard lost lead. We see the Walrus. We say switch into Lucario, and the opponent answers with Gliscor. Gliscor obviously hits us for neutral with the wing attacks due to steel, resisting and fighting, taking super effective. However, this is the bait game. The opponent needs to land an Earthquake. Chino calls the bait, and his huge Gahonas come in dividend. This can again only be a Night Slash. I believe they're short of the Earthquake. The opponent fires off another Night Slash. They get the boost. We're at the Shadow Ball. Does the opponent want to commit the final Protect Shield? Yes, they do. I'm really impressed so far with Lucario. A fighter getting both Protect Shields in the mid game from a flyer is absolutely crazy. We can now send out Pidgeot to tank these moves. The boosted Night Slash does do a fair amount of damage. Chino again looking to tank it. The second Night Slash gets us into the yellow. Chino going for the Feather Dance. I don't think Feather Dance will knock out. Does it? No, it don't. We then look to catch the Night Slash on Cobalion. Nice awareness there from Chino. Great fast move counter. We tank the Night Slash. They now send out Charizard, and holy smokes, Charizard, you are not going to appreciate the Stone Edge. The opponent can bait us, they can nuke us, we really don't care. They full YOLO the Blast Burn. We've got 2 Protect Shields, we shield it up. We've got the Stone Edge, double super effective Stone Edge returns Charizard to its Pokeball. And I think the opponent should probably top left. They actually are looking to fight this out. However, we make the Sacred Sword. This is a Shadow Walrus, so this is going to do massive damage. Sacred Sword, near one-shots. Chino can just pretty much shield up whatever they throw. The opponent plays out their win con, YOLO in the Earthquake. We're not looking to flex. We double kick farm all the way down, back out. Comes Gliscor. We've got the Stone Edge locked and loaded, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Great lead in the next battle. The super happy Gengar should turn that smile upside down, as we've got the absolute wall in Pidgeot. They say switch into Snorlax, and we send out Lucario. Chino correctly shields up a superpower. This should allow us to counter farm them all the way down. Chino actually not looking for the farm down. It would have been close. We send the close combat. Snorlax doesn't shield. Back out comes Gengar, and they're definitely going to have to return the shield. A Shadow Ball would be one-shot, and the opponent does shield it up. They now commit to the farm down, unless the opponent has something like Focus Blast or Sludge Bomb. We're going to double resist the normal moveset of Shadow Ball and Shadow Punch. Chino commits to shield, and it is a good one, as Stab Sludge Bomb would do a lot of damage. Out comes Gyarados. Chino YOLO's the Brave Bird, and another opponent doesn't shield. Holy smokes, these nukes are going off left, right, and centre, and it looks like the opponent has rage quit the app. Well, I can't blame him. That Brave Bird was a huge nuke. Pidgeot users love to bait, and hashtag Chino isn't baiting. Gengar, with his little happy face, returns to the battlefield. It's not attacking, as its trainer has let it down by rage quitting. Stone Edge gets a whole heap of lag, but it's still enough to take that game. Moving on to the next one. Pidgeot into Jellicent. The opponent is staying in. This opponent doesn't even build up to an Ice Beam. I'm still having flashbacks of shoutcasting Rodrigo's Halucha battles, where we thought we was going to pretty wall this moveset, and the opponent YOLO'd an Ice Beam at us, and Rodrigo was very sad. However, getting back into this battle, this opponent is most likely running Shadow Ball as a second move. I've had no idea why he'd run Surf and Ice Beam, so Chino can safely tank all this energy. We threw the first Feather Dance, the opponent didn't shield. We fire off the second Feather Dance, and the opponent still isn't shielding shit. This season's move update has really helped out Jellicent a lot. As you can see, it's got a pretty even fight against Pidgeot, especially when you throw Feather Dance after Feather Dance. This Jellicent is going to fire off another Surf, and if you look at the damage output, Pidgeot is actually lower than the Jelly, which I think is crazy. Chino fires off Feather Dance about 1000. This should be knocking out the Jellicent finally. So we managed to win lead. We instantly pivot into Lucario. The opponent is staying in. With Wall Rain, they've got their own Pidgeot in the back. We haven't seen anyone respect the close combat so far. Does this opponent? Of course they don't. Pidgeot near gets one shot. Chino can now shield this up or let it go. It's pretty much GG. The opponent goes for the Feather Dance. We look to counter farm them down. We simul KO. Back out comes Wall Rain, and Cobalion is about to clean up. We've still got 2 Protect Shields to hide behind. Chino looking to call the bait. The opponent YOLOs the Earthquake, but Cobalion holds strong. It looks like we are going to have to shield up the resisted Icicle Sphere. But either way, a very, very easy dub with Lucario landing another nuke on a Pidgeot. You love to see it. Moving on to the next one. Pidgeot into Giratina. Let's see what quick move they're on. They're on Shadow Claw, so a very favourable matchup for our annoying bird. And speaking of annoying bird, Chino going straight for the annoying debuff. The opponent doesn't shield, they then pivot into Snorlax. Again, not a great response for Pidgeot as they're using Lick for a fast move. They are double resisted. Chino tanks the Body Slam, banks the energy, and then pivots out into Cobalion. Cobalion going to easily outpace the big thick boy to the Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword doesn't quite knock out. They've got enough for a superpower, but one superpower not enough to knock out Cobalion. Cobalion holds strong, commits to the double kick farm down. When Giratina does return, we're going to be able to get some nice chip damage with a Stone Edge. Stone Edge, a pretty good move. However, with non-stab, doesn't do all that much to one of the meta's bulkiest Pokemon. The opponent doesn't commit to the Shadow Claw farm down. I think they definitely should have committed. They did not. They fire off the Dragon Claw. Chino returns with Pidgeot and again fires off the Feather Dance. Giratina fearful of the Brave Bird. Shield it up now. Chino can easily allow this move to go through. It's just a Dragon Claw and they've got Nidoqueen in the back. Chino again looking to double debuff this Nidoqueen with a Feather Dance. Holy crap, do I hate this bird. The opponent shielded up the Feather Dance. I imagine they're going to bait us in return. However, they actually full send the Earth Power, playing out their win con. Chino now going to outpace to the Shadow Ball. Nidoqueen pretty thick. Shadow Ball doesn't knock out. Can we counter down? We cannot. Chino going to commit his final Protect Shield here. The opponent again YOLOs the Earth Power. We get the counter farm down. Back out comes Giratina and they concede the match before we Shadow Ball him to the face. Moving on to the next one. Pidgeot into Shadow Swampert, aka the GOAT, channel favourite. In my opinion, the best Pokemon in the Open Ultra League. Chino gonna respect the first Hydro Cannon. He's then actually gonna YOLO the bird. I always call the Feather Dance bait, and this opponent also looks to call the bait, and they get nuked. They then say switch into Crobat, and we answer with Lucario. Lucario gonna outpace Crobat to the Shadow Ball. Is the opponent finally gonna start shielding? They do shield up the Shadow Ball. These air slashes are tearing us apart. However, if the opponent goes for a Poison Fang, we will survive. The opponent knows better. They full send the Shadow Ball. I imagine we're going to come back out with Pidgeot, but Chino chooses to come in to Cobalion. We do take neutral from the air slash and we do have the Stone Edge coverage. However, Shadow Ball would hit us for big damage. However, the opponent just goes for a Poison Fang. Chino makes the Stone Edge. Crobat goes down. Chino looking to pivot. What is that final Pokemon? The final Pokemon is Charizard. Chino going straight for the Brave Bird. Surely we don't land back-to-back birds. Yes, we do. Holy crap. Well, you live and you learn, Mr. Opponent. Respect the bird. Moving on to the next one. Pidgeot into Giratina. The opponent is going to strike first. Chino going to respect a potential Ancient Power, and the opponent is running Ancient Power. Chino gonna do what Pidgeot users do best, another Feather Dance. Feather Dance does pretty much nothing, however it does mean we will survive the subsequent Ancient Powers a lot easier, as this is now 2-stage debuff. Ancient Power hits for super effective, but that did pitiful damage. Chino farming up towards maximum energy and gonna fire off another Feather Dance. Is Giratina gonna start shielding? No, they're not. The first Ancient Power did absolutely nothing, and now it is debuffed once again. Holy smokes. It's pretty much healing us. Chino farming up a boatload of energy, then pivots into Gabolion. I really like this play. As we are on an ABB team, we catch the Ancient Power on Gabolion, and the opponent answers with Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini got a pretty good matchup against Gabolion, however we are pretty thick and we do have that Stone Edge coverage. Stone Edge lands. It looks like 2 won't be enough to knock out. However, if the opponent goes for a Surf, we would make Stone Edge number 2. The opponent goes for the Moonblast. Chino recognising he's not going to make the next Stone Edge, settles for a Sacred Sword for some chip damage. We've got residual energy on our Pidgeot, so Chino sends it out. And again, we're firing off the Feather Dance. Feather Dance goes unshielded. We make Feather Dance number 2. Holy crap, this Pidgeot is throwing so many Feather Dances. The second Feather Dance secures the knockout. Back out comes Giratina. Chino looking to catch another Ancient Power, and he makes the catch. Stay in school, kids. Learn to count. Ancient Power does absolutely nothing. However, it's Obstagoon, so despite making 2 catches, we'll have no choice but to commit the final shield here. We will be able to counter farm all the way down, but the opponent has 2 Protect Shields, too hard behind. Lucario going to go for the close combat to minimise the amount of farm that Giratina gets. However, they've still got a Protect Shield, so even when we make the Feather Dance, we're going to need to survive a move. We're deep in the red. I think this is going to be a loss. Is Pidgeot going to survive? Holy smokes, we're so low. I highly doubt it. Giratina fires off a charge move. Ancient Power takes us out, and Chino takes a heartbreaking loss. Moving on to the next battle. Hard loss lead. We see the pivot into Lucario, and the opponent answers with Machamp. Chino going straight for the close combat. Come on, Machamp. Call the pop. Call the pop. Unfortunately, the opponent does shield, and this Machamp's going to be a huge problem. Pidgeot, due to its normal typing, is going to take neutral from counters. We are going to have to respect a potential Rock Slide. Chino does shield it up, and the opponent full sends the Rock Slide. However, this Machamp is going to make yet another one. Is Chino willing to commit both Protect Shields? Yes, he is. The opponent again full sends the Rock Slide. We've now got no Protect Shields, too hard behind. Out comes the Wall Rain. We fire off the Brave Bird. Brave Bird goes unshielded. We look to catch, and Chino makes a catch. Holy smokes, we looked in a rough spot, but Chino makes an immaculate catch. What is that final Pokemon? It's Cresselia. Oh dear. Unless Chino pulls off some absolute wizardry, this is going to be an RPS loss. The opponent fires off the neutral Moonblast. They've still got a Protect Shield as well. Chino going to fire off the Stone Edge, but Cresselia has no need to shield this up. The next Moonblast will be lethal. Chino outpaces to another Stone Edge, but still the opponent doesn't need to shield. They tank the charge move. They're going to fire off a Moonblast. Pidgeot not in the best spot. Can it win this game? I don't think so. Let's see. We actually do survive. Chino now going to go for the Feather Dance. Feather Dance draws the final Protect Shield. Can we win this game? We're going to survive this charge move, but I think we're going to get Powder Snow down. Let's see. Moonblast doesn't take us out. The opponent stays in. Holy crap. Wing Confound. Brave Bird going to take care of Cresselia. We get off one wing attack. Can we survive the Powder Snows? We cannot. Holy smokes. Really, really close game. I thought that was definitely a loss, but Chino there made it super close. So an incredible showcase from an incredible battler. Moral of the story is if you see Lucario, respect the close combat, as we landed so many matchups. So a huge thank you to Chino for the incredibly fun battle submission. So if you like your battles featured on the channel, link to our battle submission form is down below. If you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone for watching. I will see you all in the next one.